as always, first it is important to develop the right motivation, and then we should all study on this teaching known as the Garland of Jewels by the great Dogon Shagel Papa, who is one of the 5 founding masters of the Sakya tradition. So before Dogon Shagel Papa already explained about the proper conducts, proper worldly conduct, or already given the worldly advice, and then already explained about the lesser vehicle. Now Dogon Shagel Papa is explaining the greater vehicle to the Prince Chebik Demor. So Shagel Papa explained the Mahayana, or the greater vehicle, in 2 categories, which are known as the path and the result. First, within the path, there are 6 subdivisions. First one is to put effort in the action that benefits others, or to put effort in the helpful actions to others. So, as Shagya Papa explained before, by knowing the worldly advice, one can accomplish the purpose of this life for oneself, and by knowing the lesser vehicle, one can put effort for oneself, but for the future lives, one's own future lives. But still, one cannot accomplish Buddhahood. So just by emphasizing on the worldly advice and lesser vehicles teachings, one would not be able to accomplish the Buddhahood, or the perfect Buddhahood. So so Shagya Papa is giving advice to the prince, saying, if oneself constantly put effort in helping others, then through this one can accomplish the perfect Buddhahood, which is the perfection of accomplishing the purpose of self and others. For example, then just like oneself, if a good Dharma king can, just like a good Dharma king, look after all his subjects without any bias, without any pioneer, looking after all of them equally, just like this. If one see all the sentient beings equally and put effort in doing actions for others, then one can accomplish the Buddhahood. And if one could not, or even fail to help others, then just by doing for oneself alone, through this one will also not be able to accomplish the perfect purpose of self also. So with selfish thought, one cannot accomplish not only the perfection of others' purpose, but also one cannot accomplish the perfection of the self-purpose. So self-cherishing thought or self-purpose is like just giving wages or gifts for one's own livelihood, like workers. So therefore, one must put effort in helping others. Actually, greater vehicle is based on altruistic thought. It's based on non-violence, based on helping others, based on focusing all the sentient beings without any exception and looking them equally, looking them without any differentiation or exception. So actually, the Dhamma practice is a mind practice, it's a mental practice. So if our mind is not pure, if our mind is not controlled, then no matter how much practice that we do, it is not possible to accomplish our great result. One might claim one is Buddhist, one is practicing Buddha Dharma, but when someone criticizes, then one feels sad, one feels upset, and one would like to hate them. And if one receives praise from others, then one really likes them. So this kind of thought, being happy for receiving praise and being unhappy for receiving criticism, then this means oneself is not really a good practitioner, or oneself still need to improve a lot. There's still lots of room for improvement. The real or genuine Dhamma practitioner, they do their own actions according to the Buddha's teaching, or their action is according to the Bodhisattvas, and then whatever others say, they just ignore, or their mind will not be disturbed by others' criticism or like that. So to check ourselves whether one is moving forward or not, we should check ourselves more than examining others. Actually, at the moment, our habit, most of the time, our habit is to see others' fault. And it is not our habit to see our own fault. And the more we see others' fault, then it means the more negative thoughts that we will generate. And when more negative thoughts generate, then it means the more and more non-virtuous deeds that we will do. So all these are dependent origination. So therefore, one must emphasize on examining our own action. Actually, it is good to know others' action, but main thing is to examine our own action, and even though we see others' fault, then not just hate them or not just criticize them or not just feel something bad on them, but we should generate more loving kindness and compassion towards them, and try to, if we can, then try to improve their action, try to transform their bad action into good action. So therefore, main thing is our mind. If we can keep the mind pure, then we can keep all the others pure. If we cannot keep our mind pure, then it is not possible to keep all of the others pure. I mean, if we cannot keep our mind in virtues, then we cannot keep verbal and physical action as a virtuous action, etc. So it is important to emphasize on helping others. So by helping others, one can accomplish the perfection of completing the purpose of self and others, perfection of fulfilling the purpose of others and self, which is Buddhahood. So those compassionate bodhisattvas, they relinquish all their self-purpose and wholeheartedly they help others. They sincerely help others without anything in return. So their action is an unconditional action towards others. They don't have any intent to receive something in return. They don't care about name or fame or power or any other in return, or anything in return. So bodhisattvas, their concept of sixth perfection is like an ocean, very deep, profound, and wide. So through their deep and profound and wide action, then they can accomplish the perfect Buddhahood, which is the one and only matchless protector and guide of all the sentient beings. And in order to attain such perfect Buddhahood, one must take refuge, because without taking refuge in the triple gem, we cannot enter into the path. So without entering into the path, we cannot reach the destination. We cannot attain the Buddhahood. In order to attain the Buddhahood, we must engage in the practice. We must go on the path. We must start to go on the path. And in order to start going on the path, we need to take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So here it talks about the intention of taking refuge. So intention of taking refuge is not for oneself alone, or not for a few sentient beings or fellow sentient beings, but for the sake of all the sentient beings. That is our intention. And not only for the sake of all the sentient beings, but for the sake of all the sentient beings to attain Buddhahood, or wishing all the sentient beings to attain Buddhahood, then one should take refuge. And now the second is the object of the refuge. So here the object, means Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Buddha is the one that has the perfection of self-purpose, which is Dharmakaya, and perfection of purpose of others, which is the Rupakaya or Nimanakaya and Sambhogakaya. So Buddha refers to the three kayas or Rupakaya and Dharmakaya. When we say Rupakaya, then it covers both Nimanakaya and Sambhogakaya. Both are part of the Rupakaya. And also Dharma. Then Dharma, actually Dharma has two, teaching and realization. So teaching and realization of the greater vehicle are the Buddha Dharma, the actual path, and also one of the object of refuge. And then Sangha. Sangha means those who has already gained the irreversible state. So those bodhisattvas are the Sangha. Actually, different texts has different way of presentation or different way of identifying the Sanghas, but anyway, all these authentic explanations or commentaries, they don't contradict to each other, just a different way of presentation. And now the next one, the next subdivision, which is the third subdivision, is the purpose, or for whom or for what sake one is taking refuge. The bodhisattvas, those who are on the path, they hold Buddha as their guide, or the one who show the path, or the one who show the Buddha's path. And then later, those bodhisattvas, they themselves attain the Buddhahood. So the Buddha, when they are on the path, then it is the one that shows the path. And when they become Buddha, then it means they themselves have attained the object of refuge. And also similarly, the Dharma, Buddha Dharma or the Holy Dharma, when they are on the path, then Buddha Dharma is the one that they need to go or move forward, or they need to travel on, or Dharma is the actual path that they need to travel on. But then later, when they become Buddha, then they don't need to travel further more. Then these Buddha Dharma are the one that they need to show, or they need to give, or they need to turn the wheel of Dharma for others. And Sangha also, when they are on the path, the Sanghas are their spiritual companions. They need to hold as their own spiritual companions. And then later, when they themselves attain to Buddhahood, then Sangha are their own followers, because now they themselves have attained the Buddhahood. And then at that time, these Sanghas means not themselves, but their followers, their disciples. So for such purpose, one should promise to rely on the triple gem and take refuge. So when one takes refuge in the triple gem, one should sincerely and wholeheartedly submit oneself under the direct guidance of the triple gem without any hesitation or doubt. Now, the fourth subdivision is the time, the duration. So, in short, until oneself attains to Buddhahood, with all the sentient beings, one need to hold the triple gem as their holy refuge. So the prince also need to hold the triple gem as his own holy refuge or your own holy refuge. So, in short, the greater vehicle refuge has 4 special characters, 4 specialties from the course point of view, which refers to the great compassion, because great compassion is the uncommon Mahayana course of refuge. And then object, they mainly take refuge in the Buddha, and purpose is for the sake of all the sentient beings, or until for the sake of all the sentient beings. Holding the triple gem and holding triple gem as a guide and actual path and spiritual companion, and then later, after attaining such state, then showing others or giving teaching to others, etc. So anyways, in short, it means for the sake of all the sentient beings. And then the specialty of time is taking refuge until oneself attains to Buddhahood. So these 4 are the 4 specialties of the Mahayana that distinguish from the lesser vehicles refuge. And now the 5th subdivision is the benefit of taking refuge. So taking refuge is the foundation of developing the bodhicitta, which is the source of fulfilling all the temporary and ultimate wishes of the sentient beings. For Mahayana, or for greater vehicle, bodhicitta itself is the foundation of all the qualities. And for that also, first we need to take refuge. Without taking refuge, one cannot develop bodhicitta. Without having the refuge vow, one cannot become a bodhisattva, or one cannot generate the actual bodhicitta. So therefore, taking refuge is the foundation of developing the bodhicitta, and all the benefits that we can have by developing the bodhicitta are also they are also like indirect benefits of taking refuge. And also in the sutra it says, if the benefit of taking refuge is in a physical form, then the whole universe is too small to contain it. So it means you want to take a proper refuge in the Guru, or in the, if we say like in the common one, then taking refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha properly, then the benefit of that is immense. It's infinite. So through this way, it outshines all the other samsaric and nirvanic virtuous deeds. And now next one is presenting the loving kindness and compassion. This also has three subdivisions, or four subdivisions. And the first one is the object of loving kindness and compassion. This also has three subdivisions. So first one is the nature of sentient beings. So sentient beings are the one that has the mind. So the actual cause of mind is mind itself. The mind cannot be caused by inanimate objects or by uncomposite factors or by other creators. So mind is caused by mind itself, like the present mind. The actual cause or the main cause of this present mind is the previous mind. But there can be other factors that can help to generate the mind, but the main cause is the mind itself, the previous mind itself. The main cause of the present mind is the previous mind itself of the same continuum. And this mind is changing. This mind is depending on cause and condition, and this mind is impermanent. This mind is changing momentarily. So it has a cause. It has a main cause, which is the previous mind itself. So therefore, there's no beginning and end to this mind. Because if there's a beginning of this mind, then this first mind or the beginning mind, this mind does not have previous mind as its own main cause. So then it is not right. And if there's no cause for the first mind, then it means the first mind does not depend on cause and condition, or first mind is not a dependent origination. So through this and other reasons, we can say that mind has no beginning, and similarly we can say there's no end. Because all the present mind will always generate their own next mind. So mind is very powerful. Mind is the one that does all the good and bad actions. Mind is the one that has the feeling of suffering and happiness, and the mind is the one that can fall down in the lower realms, and mind is one that can gain liberation and enlightenment state. So when I say mind, I mean not this present momentary mind, but I mean this mental continuum is the one that will continue, and on this same mental continuum one can experience all these. So the main thing is our mind. Our body and speech are not powerful. Without the help of our mind, the body and speech cannot do anything, cannot do any action. All the physical and verbal actions are supported by the mind or motivated by the mind. So mind holds all the control over every physical and verbal actions. So mind is changing momentarily. The present mind is changing momentarily, and it's impermanent. It's powerful. So this is the nature of the mind. Those who have the mind is called the sentient being. So and also the universe has no limit. Universe is limitless. Similarly, those who are on the universe or the sentient beings are also limitless. So in short, it means all those who have the mind is called sentient beings, and the sentient beings are limitless. There's no limit to the sentient being. And all these limitless sentient beings, like space, all of them are one's own loving kindness. All of them are the object of one's own loving kindness and compassion. So whether one can develop proper loving kindness and compassion depends on our own object. If our object is limitless, then definitely we can practice the limitless loving kindness and compassion. Actually, these two thoughts, positive thoughts, they are known as limitless or infinite. It is because their object, the sentient beings, are limitless or infinite. Because of limitless object, the subject or the loving kindness and compassion are also known as the limitless or infinite loving kindness and compassion. So it is important to know the real object of our loving kindness and compassion. If we could not recognize or if we could not identify the limitless sentient beings as our own object of loving kindness and compassion, without that, then we cannot have pure or genuine loving kindness and compassion. So if we really have the practice of infinite loving kindness and compassion based on all the sentient beings without any exception, then naturally we can control all the biased thought, all the thoughts of far and near, or having attachment to one's own side and having a hatred towards other side. All these are opposite thought of the loving kindness and compassion. These thought of loving kindness and compassion cannot remain in same mental continuum at the same time. That is not possible. In one cup, it is not possible to have hot water and cold water at the same time. Either it has to be cold or hot or lukewarm. It cannot be very cold and very hot, or it cannot be hot and cold together at the same time. When they merge together, then they becomes warm water and it does not remain as hot or cold. It is not possible to remain hot and cold when they meet in same cup at the same time. So similarly, the hatred and other biased thought and loving kindness and compassion, these two cannot remain in the same mental continuum at the same time. It is not possible. Also, like hot weather and cold weather cannot be at the same time at the same place. So, therefore, it is very, very important to know or to identify the limitless sentient beings as our own object of practice. So, if we really know this, then it means we are practicing Dharma not for one's own sake, not for few people, not for all the fellow countrymen and women, and also not only for all the followers of same religion or same school, whether they are followers of Buddha or not, whether they are following other religions or whether they are non-believers, whatever they are, all the human beings, all the more than 7 billion human beings are all object of this practice. Not only that, all the humans and animals that are in this world, with this, all these sentient beings of the 6 realms of the samsara, all of them are the object of our loving kindness and compassion. So mentally, we should extend our loving kindness and compassion far and wide, because there's no barrier for mental practice. There's no barrier. We can reach to all the sentient beings without any difficulties. So when we really practice the pure loving kindness compassion, then there's no barrier, there's no demarcation. This is my object and this is not my object, not like this. There's no such demarcations. Every sentient beings are our own object of loving kindness and compassion. So this is very important to know. Without knowing this, it is not possible for us to develop the genuine loving kindness and compassion. So therefore, we must know this and practice loving kindness and compassion according to the object. And now, next one is the nature of samsara. The sentient beings, due to their own karma, without their choice, without their wish, they experience many sufferings, like suffering of change, and suffering of conditional nature of all the phenomena. So sentient beings are tormented by these sufferings, and also we sentient beings are wandering in the samsara due to this the 12 links of dependent arising, which are known as the ignorance, second, formative factors, third, consciousness, fourth, name and form, and fifth, sense space, sixth, contact, seven, sensation, eight, craving, and nine, clinging, and 10th, becoming, and 11th, birth, and 12, aging and death. So these 12 links of dependent arising can be combined into three categories, which are known as the total affliction in terms of mental affliction, and total affliction in terms of karma, and total affliction in terms of birth. So in these three categories, or through these 12 link dependent arising, we are wandering in the samsara. Just like the wheel is spinning or turning, when the wheel turns or spins, then there's no beginning or end of the wheel. It turns and turns and turns. So similarly, if we do not meet with the right method or right antidote, then we will be wandering in the samsara endlessly. So this is known as the cyclic existence. But if we meet with the right remedy, like at the moment we do have the great opportunity to practice Buddha Dharma, because we have the precious human life, and so if we use this great opportunity in a proper way or in a meaningful way, then there's no doubt that we can really accomplish a great result, or temporary and ultimate result. So anyway, cyclic existence means the one that is wandering in the samsara due to 12 link or due to these three categories of total affliction. Now the next one is the nature of nirvana. So due to our own karma, we do experience sufferings. But the nature of the sentient being is Dhammakaya, which means the nature of the mind is pure, is luminosity or pure from beginningless. So every sentient being possesses the natural purity. And all these stains, or all the obscurations, all the mental afflictions and other negative thoughts, all these are temporary. They are not the nature of the mind. And if we study and contemplate and meditate on this, then we will be able to achieve great result. And also, those who have not studied, contemplate, and meditate, or those who don't know, or those who have not realized such nature, then for them, we should extend our great compassion towards all the sentient beings, and especially we should extend our great compassion on them, and we should lead them, and we should provide them, or we should help them through skillful means. And through skillful means, if they have the opportunity, or if they have the right factor or right method to purify their own stains, then all the sentient beings can become Buddha, because all the sentient being has the potency to become Buddha. But at the moment, there are sentient beings who are very used to do the action of self-purpose, and also those who are used to, or those who are used to do, or those who has, there are sentient beings who has inferior propensity of dualistic thought, and also they have not met with a right teacher or genuine teacher, or they have met with a unskillful teacher or improper teacher, and also they have inferior friends. So by associating with such friends, or by associating with improper teacher, etc., and also those who are Sharavakas and Patikas, they don't have extensive action of helping others, and also they don't have the perfect relinquishment or perfect realization. So these Sharavakas and Patika Buddhas, they do have the mere liberation from the mental affliction, but still they are not free from all the sufferings, they are not free from all the obscurations. And this is the meaning of nirvana. So here nirvana refers to Sharavakas and Patika Buddhas. Then it explains that the Buddha who has the skillful means and methods, so those who could not enter into the Mahayana path directly, for them, then Buddha showed the path of Sharavakas and Patika Buddhas. And then from there on, gradually lead them to the greater vehicle, and then lead them to attain the Buddhahood. So showing the Sharavaka and Patika Buddha's path is like a temporary path, or like a resting place. For example, if one is going on traveling on the ocean for months and months, then they really want to see a land and want to rest. So then if someone manifests a land and give them a good rest on that land or island, then they continue their journey on the ocean. So similarly, those who could not go directly without having any break, then for them Buddha shows the Sharavaka and Patika Buddhas. So, but it does not mean their result is the ultimate result. First they show this, first Buddha showed to them this path and result, and after entering into this path and gaining the result, then they move forward and enter into the minor path and move forward and attain the Buddhahood. So this is showing the Sharavaka and Patika Buddha's path is a skillful method or gradual path to attain Buddhahood. A longer way or longer route longer path to attain the Buddhahood, because they could not enter the Mahayana path directly. So with this, I conclude my today's talk. And at the end, we should always dedicate all our merits to attain Buddhahood for the sake of all the sentient beings. And also, we should always dedicate all our merits for our root gurus, long life, good health, and turn the wheel of Dharma far and wide always. Thank you.